For as long as people have been searching for God, they have been looking up. Abram looked up at the night sky, and God made him a promise that as many stars as he could see there, that's how many descendants he was going to have. And yet he and his wife Sarai, despite their fervent prayers, weren't even able to have kids yet. Later, the people of God traveled 40 years in the wilderness toward the land of promise. And when they looked up toward the hot blazing sun, there was a pillar of cloud to shield them by day. And by night, they looked up to find a pillar of fire to show the way. By the time we come to Jesus, a group of wise ones from the east look up to find a star they've been waiting and watching for their whole lives. And from a long way off, they follow that star until it leads them to the mystery they've been searching for. Maybe these stories sound a bit far-fetched to you. Fairy tales from ye old Bible, ancient and leather-bound, from which we blow the dust off once a year. Or maybe that's how it really happened. Maybe they know something we don't. I could pull out my mobile phone any moment and locate myself on the globe to within 1 meter. We have Army-developed satellites and global positioning systems to take us from here to there. And yet, if you're anything like me, sometimes we have absolutely no idea where we are or where we're going. It was partly from this sense of not knowing that I enrolled this fall in an intensive 6-month course that I'm in the middle of now. It might be the most important course I've ever taken, and that tally includes my undergraduate and seminary education. The course is on permaculture design, and when I turn in my final project, God willing, before Holy Week, I hope to obtain an accredited certificate in permaculture design. What's permaculture? It's an ethical design system based on 3 principles: earth care, people care, and fair share. That is, returning the surplus to both earth and people. And it's about designing sustainable human settlements or communities that work with natural principles and not against them. Sample subjects on the syllabus thus far include soils, trees, water, and patterns. It was in this last chapter that I stumbled upon something that blew open my concept of today's story of the Magi. I learned about the use of patterns in tribal cultures around the globe. It shouldn't have surprised me, but it did, how much of this course is shaped fundamentally by indigenous knowledge that has enabled First Peoples around the world to thrive and live sustainably on the land for thousands of years. This particular module told stories of Polynesians who, through complex pattern maps, could navigate vast distances across the Pacific. They could chart a course by looking up and reading the sky and following certain stars. We've heard that already, and even though most of us have no idea how to do that, we're aware of that phenomenon that people can follow a star. But that was only the beginning. A skilled listener in a black box by the keel would listen to the wave refraction in the hull, and by the pattern of the waves could predict storms or how close the islands were. Another would use a lodestone or a crystal of calcite to predict rain or find the sun even when it was overcast. And get this, they would sing. Not songs to pass the time, but navigation songs for specific search patterns. Stay with me. For it turns out, embedded in 1,000 songs of tribal peoples globally are incredibly complex and sophisticated patterns. Grandparents would teach their grandchildren the song, which the kids thought were just songs, until they came of age, and then they were initiated into their deeper or secondary meanings about medicinal or sacred or navigational knowledge. Many times such knowledge was tattooed on skin or embedded in the muscle memory of dance so that you couldn't forget it. And this navigation by singing was not unique to any one culture. A tribal culture, a tribal group in Australia, sings over sand patterns in the desert. And based on the way they sing and the pauses and the refrains, they can sing a stranger to a single stone in an apparently featureless desert. Inuit could navigate even in the fog by listening to the quail dialects specific to certain headlands. And when they heard the bird dialects change, they knew they were in a different location. It seems like magic, but it's not. It's about paying attention. Let me just say this much as an aside. When you participate in worship and learn the songs of faith and sing your heart out here or at home or on the road, you are not just passing the time. You are trying to sing your way back home, and so am I. And this is the power of our incredible musicians here at St. Clement's under Dan's unparalleled leadership. They are helping us listen for God and thus find our way home. Back to the Magi. All of a sudden, following a star doesn't seem so unreasonable to me. I wonder, did they sing to find their way? Did those songs carry them past those crowded cities of the east and across the wasteland of a desert? Did a pillar of cloud mysteriously protect them by day and a flame light their way by night? Did they look up when they weren't sure which way to go? I wonder, how long did their journey take them? 40 days like Jesus in the wilderness? Or 40 years like the people of God? Were they like Moses, middle-aged when they first heard the voice of God? And friends, forget the two-dimensional Moses that you thought you knew, for the three-dimensional real one was on the run for killing a man and burying him in the sand. And until one day, washed up, middle-aged Moses was walking through a landscape that looked an awfully lot like his life, when something caught his eye and he looked up. It was a bush burning on fire, but not consumed. Did he see himself there? A gnarly and overgrown 40-year-old bush taking up space in some God-forsaken wilderness. What I do know is in that place he heard a voice call out to him, "Moses, Moses, take off your sandals, for the place you're standing is holy ground." Today is known in the church calendar as the Epiphany. I usually imagine an epiphany as a light bulb aha moment, a moment in time where someone flips the switch and we see our lives and all they contain in a new and strange light. Epiphanies, when they come, feel all of a sudden. Yet the scriptures would suggest they are often 40 years in the making. The Epiphany moment is preceded by 1,000 songs sung over 1,000,000 miles till one day we look up and the star has stopped and out of nowhere, we are overwhelmed with joy. Today, I invite you to pay attention to where the joy is bubbling up from. For some of us, that aquifer may feel incredibly deep, buried far beneath the compacted soil of our lives and inaccessible, but for a well and a bucket we do not have. Or if that starts to feel a bit woo-woo, consider an email I received this week from a list I subscribed to from Harvard Business Review. The gist of the article was why telling someone to follow their passion is terrible advice. Stop telling people to follow your bliss, it said, which honestly starts to get a bit much even for someone as overly earnest as I am. Instead, the author writes, quote, "Consider the activities that you return to time and time again, despite the fact that they are hard for you or maybe even painful. Think of this approach as following your blisters. These probably aren't the activities you're the best at yet. They're the ones that challenge you, frustrate you, and attract you all at once." If finding God up in the sky is proving elusive, try looking beneath your feet. You might just be overwhelmed with joy. Amen.